Parent engagement in their child's education is essential for maximizing success. We learn more about advocating for your child's education. It's all here on the next Latino Motion. Join us.
Choose to get lost in the woods to gain experience in forest management.
Choose to travel through time to understand the past.
Choose to soar to pursue a career in dance.
Stockton University offers 50 high-quality academic programs, small class sizes, and affordable tuition. Choose to match your interests and talents at one of New Jersey's nationally ranked universities.
Latino Motion with Bert Lopez is presented by Latino Motion Public Affairs Media, a New Jersey nonprofit corporation, and Stockton University. This edition of Latino Motion with Bert Lopez is brought to you by the HD Studios at the campus of Stockton University. Funding for Latino Motion is provided by Atlanticare, a member of Geisinger, Atlantic City Electric, energy for a changing world, and South Jersey Gas. Welcome to Latino Motion, a weekly interview show highlighting issues impacting New Jersey's Latino community while advancing understanding of Latino cultural heritage and contributions to our society. And here is your host, Bert Lopez.
Buenos dias and welcome to Latino Motion. If you're a concerned parent, you want to be engaged in your children's education beyond just helping them with homework. Joining me is Kiwi Santana. She's a special education teacher with over 20 years of experience to provide some valuable guidance. Kiwi, welcome to Latino Motion.
Thank you for having me, Bert. Excited.
So this is an important topic. We want to talk about how parents get engaged in the children's education. It's particularly a concern for Latino parents, yes, how they get engaged in the children's education. What are some of the key factors?
I think I'm glad you brought up Latino parents because a lot of us tend to, very humble. We want to leave things to the school. They know what they're doing, and we kind of take a back seat. And I think it's very important for parents to really be extremely active and be in the front rows of their child's education. So I can tell you a little bit about the importance of parents being engaged at the elementary level, at the middle school level, and at the high school level.
And especially, I know that I see parents bring their children to school when they're very young, the elementary level, and then that seems to teeter off as you go into the middle school and certainly the high school. But you really need to continue that involvement throughout their school career. Tell me why it's so important.
What I think it's important, definitely parents are, all extremely very supportive and very involved at the elementary level, and that's a very important stage to be involved in. You help build your child's love for learning, learning the process of, how to behave in school, how to act in school, how to learn. And then parents feel, okay, now my child, mastered that in 5 or 6 years, depending, right? And then, okay, now I'm going to kind of back off a little, let them go into middle school, sort of do it on their own. And that's true. A lot of children at that age, when they enter middle school, they want to be a little bit more independent. They start to, want to test the boundaries. They want to back away a little bit from their parents. And it's a very critical age, unfortunately. It could be in a lot of bad ways as well as in good ways, but I think parents need to remain involved. It's a lot of things that happen at that age, and children really need your support at that time a lot more, actually, than in the elementary level.
Let's talk a little bit about how they get engaged. Obviously, when they come home, you check their bag, you do the homework, et cetera. But what's some of the other ways that a parent could get engaged in their children's education?
Yes, I think that's a good point. In elementary school, you're basically told the things that you can do, and please check the folder, make sure the child has this done, make sure that the child has that done. But at the middle school level, parents sort of feel like, I don't know what to do now, right? They're not as involved in maybe the parent-teacher associations or organizations. They don't really go into the classroom as much as they used to, like parent volunteers. But those are all still available at the middle school level. You just have to, make it known to the school that this is what you want to do. You want to participate. You also have to give your child that independence, but never fully back off. Let them think they're being a little bit more independent, but you still have to be in the background, and you still have to attend parent-teacher conferences. You'd be surprised how many parents do not attend parent-teacher conferences. It's actually shocking. Attend back-to-school nights. Get to know the teachers. Email your child's teachers. Find out, what they're expecting from your child. The more you know about the expectations, the more you're able to help your child. Even if you can't actually help them with homework. I know homework gets to be very difficult, and don't be intimidated by that. Schools have programs to help parents.
Well, let's talk about, you mentioned email parents, et cetera. So there is a lot of technology out there, and some schools, they even have apps that track the progress of the children, or at least that it's a rapid communication directly with the teacher. I know my son has one, and the teacher will send me a note directly in the app, or make comments, or give us the assignments that the child's working on. So it's important that you sign up for those apps.
Absolutely, and I know they're prevalent in the elementary school, and they tend to wean off in the middle school, but in the middle school levels, we do, teachers still have what they call like teacher websites, and they post homework, they post assignments. All of our grades are online, so the parents, we have parent portals. You're able to sign up when you go back to school night. A lot of letters are sent home over the summer preparing you to sign up for these, to access to these programs, these portals, and parents can see their child's grades, even if their child's not coming home and telling you, or they don't need to have a test signed. A lot of parents feel like, oh, if I don't need to sign a test, my child is doing great. But you have access to all of these resources that you can use to help to keep track of your child, make sure they're, heading in the right direction.
And I know in today's environment, both parents usually work, and let's just give special attention to fathers, because they also need to get engaged. In fact, so some of the schools have a special program just to get the fathers engaged. How important is it for fathers to really get involved?
I think it's extremely important. We do notice that a lot of the higher involvement does come from the mothers, but at the middle school level, I think I have seen a good amount of male parents come in, but it's not as high as the female involvement. That might depend on the family circumstances, but I've had parents who are divorced, and they'll both come to parent-teacher conferences. Even if they don't want to come to the same one, we accommodate that. We'll accommodate one parent at a certain time, another parent. But I think both parents definitely need to be involved. We don't have a lot of male teachers, unfortunately, at the elementary level or at the middle school level. So I think any male role models that students have, or any males that are showing interest in how they're doing.
The key here is to be involved.
Involved, regardless, male or female.
We want to continue this discussion. We want to talk about how parents could advocate for their children. We'll be right back with more Latino Motion.
Latino Motion with Bert Lopez is presented by Latino Motion Public Affairs Media, a New Jersey nonprofit corporation. Join us online at www.latinomotion.tv. Find us on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. We encourage your comments and contributions for show topics.
Welcome back to Latino Motion. We're discussing the importance of parent engagement in their child's education. Joining me once again is Kiwi Santana. She is a local educator with over 20 years of experience. Kiwi, we were talking about parental engagement, and one of the things that I want to discuss is advocacy. Parents have rights, and obviously there are a number of rights that many parents are not aware of. What are some of the rights?
I think parents definitely have the right to, and one of the big ones is that parents are not aware of. They have the right to see all of their child's records, okay, to really understand what's in, we call it a CUME file, to understand what's in there. A CUME file has state testing, it has report cards, things you have probably seen as a parent, but a lot of other things that you haven't seen. It could be informal assessments made, by your child's teacher, discipline issues, discipline referrals, and so you have the right to see that file. And if you don't agree with anything in that file, you have the right to question it. You have the right to have everything explained to you, and you even have the right to request that things in that file be changed.
Let's talk about, as Latino parents, one of the rights is being able to get the information in your language, correct?
Absolutely. If English is not your primary language, so if you speak Spanish, if that's your first language, you have the right to receive all school documents in Spanish or in whatever language is your primary language, absolutely. And you even have the right to request translators if you are asked to come into the school, or if you just want to come in and speak to anyone in the school, you have the right to request a translator.
There's also a right to privacy.
Oh, absolutely. Your information, your child's information is private. All of their medical information at the school is private. Their discipline referrals, all that information is maintained, very kind of closed up, and only the people that need to know have access to that information.
And the school is not entitled to question immigration status,
Oh,
correct?
absolutely not. You can register your child without ever having to be asked about your immigration status. Nothing like that. You can't be asked for a passport. You can't be asked for, a green card, alien registration card, any of that. And if the school does ask, you have the right to refuse. Even if they just ask you the question, are you a U.S. citizen? You do not have to answer that question.
Obviously, it's not always a perfect day in schools. Children do have some issues at times. Some of it could be harassment. What should a parent do if they feel that their child's being harassed in school?
Yes, this happens a lot. We have parents who are very concerned. Kids are coming home and reporting, very troubling things that are happening at school. They feel that someone is, making fun of them or even physically, causing them harm. So if it hasn't already been reported to the school and the school hasn't, informed you of it, you have every right to, call the school, either speak to your child's teacher, speak to an administrator, a school counselor, and report any, harassment, intimidation, or bullying that you think your child is being exposed to.
Let's talk about relationship between the parent and the teacher. I would think that that's very important, particularly if you want to have that rapport with the teacher to be able to come to you. How important is that, and how can you have a solid relationship with your teacher?
I think one of the best ways is to try to stay involved. You can definitely participate in any events that the teacher is having in the classroom. That'll be a good opportunity. I know schedules don't always allow that, but it's, you can maintain communication with your teacher through email. We all have emails. If you want to do a weekly phone call or just to check up on your child. I think the more a teacher sees that you want to be engaged and you want to be informed, the more they're going to want to extend that information to you. So if you are having an issue, I think it's important to speak up right away and let the teacher know what do you think is going on, something that maybe the teacher said that your child reported, sort of really go to the source right away as soon as you can and try to be calm about it because you don't want to create any friction in that relationship.
Yeah, very, very important. Let's talk about when a child is struggling. They're struggling with their homework. They're struggling in school. What are some of the things the parents should do?
Definitely. I think that the teacher might be the first one to start to notice that a child is having difficulty. So if a teacher realizes that a student is maybe way behind in what their age peers and where they should be, the teacher may definitely contact other individuals in the school to help maybe assess the child or just to kind of get a feel for where the child is or where the child is struggling. And this sometimes leads to maybe your child receiving special education services. But please understand that your child cannot receive special education services without your consent. And it's extremely important that if you are told that your child is struggling academically, it could be socially, it could be emotionally, any of those, that you are you have to amp up your participation because, a lot of what happens in these evaluations can determine, your child's trajectory through the rest of their educational system.
And we want to talk a little bit more in depth about special education. Okay. I just want to, one follow-up question is in terms of being able to communicate with the teacher. Obviously, you have the parent teacher conferences. Is it okay to set appointments with teachers during the rest of the year?
Oh, absolutely. Teachers will make themselves available. I know a lot of teachers will meet with parents before school starts or even after school or even during the day if they have a period where it's just maybe like their prep time just to prepare for the rest of the day. Teachers definitely make ourselves available to parents. If a parent-teacher conference doesn't work for you, we try to do them sometimes in the between 1 and 4 p.m. or 4 to 7 to accommodate different working schedules. If a parent can't do that, we'll definitely set up a time to to meet with you that is more convenient for you. Not on a Saturday maybe, but.
Great information. We want to talk a little bit about special education, which is your specialty. We'll be right back with more Latino Motion. Welcome back to Latino Motion. And once again, with Kiwi Santana discussing the importance of parent engagement in their child's education. And Kiwi, we talked about advocacy and we talked about engagement. We want to talk about special education. That's an important subject. And obviously, there's some stigma associated with special education. Tell me a little more about that.
Yeah, definitely. We have, obviously we have a large number of students that, do qualify for special education services. And by large, I mean anywhere between 20 to 30% of students do, qualify for special education services. So I just want to reassure parents that if your child is identified to be having, maybe a learning disability, that it's important that, you, along with the school, come up with a plan for how you're going to assess, your child's needs, and sort of work through the process of really identifying where your child is struggling, why are they struggling, so that you can work together and come up with a plan to be able to help your child, through that process.
And that is the key, right? Mm-hmm. Obviously, the special education is there to help basically overcome obstacles in your children's learning. And how does this happen? Is this automatically the school designates, and what's the process?
Okay, so usually it could be parent initiated. So sometimes when parents, let the teacher know, listen, I know something, something's not right here. My other child was doing this at that age. I don't see, my child progressing at that level. Or a lot of times it'll be teacher initiated. The teachers, we're very well trained to identify if a child is having difficulty. So whichever way it comes, you guys will come together and decide that maybe the child needs to have some, formal assessments done. So whether it's, educational, like reading, writing, math, any of those type of assessments. Cognitive as well. So sometimes the schools will do, full battery of assessments to really get to the cause. But parents do need to understand that, we need your involvement. Your involvement is required by law, and you have the right to sort of, refuse the assessments or, go through the assessments. Let's say your child was assessed to have some sort of a disability. The child, even at that point, still has the right to turn down or reject special education services. But obviously, for your child to be identified, the child showed, a huge discrepancy in what they're capable of doing and where they are performing. So at that point, the child does need to have some, specialized services.
Give me an example of how special education could help a child in the long run to succeed.
Okay, absolutely. So our main goal with special education is what we call LRE, which is our least restrictive environment. We want to place children in the environment where they have the most contact with general education students. So if your child may be struggling with reading, your child might be placed in a classroom with a second teacher, what we call, an in-class support situation. That teacher will be there to help your child and probably, several other students who are maybe struggling with reading or with writing or with math. And that extra support is beneficial for your child because if your child is stuck or needs a little bit of extra help, you have that second teacher in the classroom. We also have placements where your child might be in special education, maybe in a small classroom setting for one subject, but they're performing very well in all the other subjects. So it's not your child's in special education, for the rest of your life, unless your child has significant, disabilities, and that's something you will probably know, very close to birth.
And ironically, you have school systems that perhaps don't offer a robust number of services for special education, but you do have a right to receive those special education services.
Absolutely. And sometimes if your district doesn't offer what your child needs, the district still has to provide that service. They're either going to pay another district to educate your child. Obviously, you won't have the benefit of being in your district, but your child at least is receiving the services they need. So districts who cannot provide it because they don't have the programs can still pay for them at other districts or at other schools.
What advice do you give parents who may be resistant to either getting their child evaluated or resistant to receiving special education services?
I think my advice is maybe become a little bit more informed of the special education process and maybe the assessment process. Ask questions. If you don't understand something, don't just sit there and agree because you're sitting in front of a group of professionals who do this for a living. But ask questions. It's okay to ask questions. It's okay to not know. It's okay to ask for a second opinion. You have the right to request evaluations outside of the district or to even have your own done if you don't agree with the evaluations the school has done on your child. So always sort of don't just assume that everything's going to be okay, but don't always assume that things are going to be bad as well. It's done for the benefit of your child. If we know your child is struggling, we want to do the best we can to help them.
Well, one of the final subjects I want to talk to you about is transitioning from middle school to the high school. You're a middle school teacher, and obviously, what are some of the things that we as parents should be concerned about when transitioning from middle school to the high school?
One of the biggest things is really a lot of the decisions are for your high school student are made in middle school. The tests, the state's scores, the test that they take in 7th grade, pretty much determine some of their placement in high school. Obviously, you want to wait for the 8th grade test as well, but right now we're in the process of already choosing classes for our 8th grade students. So they're meeting with the high school counselors, they're choosing classes. Please attend those meetings as a parent. Even if you don't know what the classes are, just the fact that you're there, your child stands a better chance of getting the classes they need. Make sure that you know the options you have in the different high schools. Our high schools now have specialized programs for students that have the option to pick and choose what high school they want to go to and apply to these special programs so that they can pick where they want to go and you're not just stuck with your neighborhood school.
Again, the road to success for your child is to remain engaged.
Absolutely, 100% research shows over and over again, the more involved that you are with your child's education, the better chance your child has, just being successful in general.
Kiri, thank you so much for this information, and thank you for joining us once again here on Latino Motion.
Choose to get your feet wet, to learn more about protecting our environment.
Choose to read minds, to understand the human brain.
Choose to get your hands dirty, to create a masterpiece.
Stockton University offers 50 high-quality academic programs, small class sizes, and affordable tuition. Choose to match your interests and talents at one of New Jersey's nationally ranked universities.
Funding for Latino Motion is provided by Atlanticare, a member of Geisinger, Atlantic City Electric, energy for a changing world, and South Jersey Gas.